All right. Well, hopefully you got some good things written down there and manifested some good intentions that you have. Well, I guess just as you do that, I would love for you to write some stuff in the chat box, either some gratitudes or some intentions. I mean, if you have it as an intention, you should have no problem throwing it out into the chat box. So I would love to see you do that. And today, as we were going through and we were doing the opening affirmations, one of the things that just stood out to me big time is the I eat healthy foods. And so I guess just as I was reading that one or chanting that one, I guess maybe I should say, I couldn't help but think about, are you eating the 5 fruits and vegetables every single day? And that's something that I've been working on for myself, is making sure that I am getting the number of fruits and vegetables into my diet. And so I do a really good job with getting the fruits in the morning. I don't know about you guys, but I love fruit for breakfast. And I do a good job with that, but vegetables for some reason are more of a struggle. So sometimes you got to be a little creative on the vegetables. Last night, for instance, my wife made artichokes. And I don't know if you've ever had those before, but I think that you expend more energy to eat them than the amount that you get from them, until you get to the heart, at least. The heart of the artichoke is amazing. So anyway, hopefully you guys are working on that as well. And I'm excited to get to share a little bit of a message with you. So a little bit of the thoughts that I've been having, and I think I talked about this even a little bit last week, is just of the cruciality, if that's really a real word, I don't know, but basically of how crucial it is that we are working on and getting listings. See, last week I talked about how frustrating the business can be on the buyer side. And again, doesn't mean don't work the buyers, but you got to make sure that you are really pre-qualifying them to make sure that they understand. I had an agent even yesterday come and talk to me and saying, I've got a buyer, and he had a stack like this of offers, and he went through and counted them. He had written 15 offers for this buyer. Now, here's the interesting thing on this. The very first offer that he wrote for this buyer got accepted. So he had written an offer, got it accepted, and the buyer then was like, I don't know if I really want that house. I mean, you kind of just, made me feel like I had to really just jump on every property I saw if I wanted to get one accepted. I'm not sure I even want it, so let's just cancel. Well, when that happened and the agent first called me and said he was canceling the contract, I was like, not a good idea. I mean, granted, we got to let them do what they want to do, and it should be a house that they at least somewhat want. But I just said, man, are you sure about doing this? Well, he goes ahead and cancels it. Well, since then, now he's written 14, at least. I don't remember the exact number, but I know it was at least 15. He'd written now 14 more offers and can't get them accepted. Well, the buyer calls him yesterday and says, hey, I thought you were the expert. I thought you knew how to get the job done. And the buyer's now frustrated with the agent because he can't get an offer accepted. And of course, my first response, which is probably not the best response, was, well, did you say that's why I tried to get you to keep the first property that you wrote the offer on? Well, here's the thing. As frustrating as that can be and as hard as it can be, and if we will work the pre-qualification, making sure we are future pacing them to teaching them what they need to know and how they're going to have to go about this to get a property, that's going to make it less frustrating. But what about on the listing side? When you go and take a listing, the frustration we have on that is we're the ones now dealing with 20 or 30 offers when we get those offers in on the listing, right? Which side would you rather be on? And I know for me that, especially right now in today's market, listings is the name of the game. To some extent, it always is the name of the game. But right now, specifically, if you get a listing, you can know you're pretty much going to be getting a paycheck. So I wanted to just share with you some ideas about how do sellers go about choosing an agent? Because if we want to get more listings, we really ought to make sure that we understand how is the seller going about doing it. And so I've got a few ideas written down of things that we could talk about in terms of how how a seller is going to choose you to be their agent. Now, I didn't think this through till just right now, in terms of, I should have brought to you the chart that comes out from the National Association of Realtors that shows how does a seller choose the agent they're going to list with. The number one way that they choose who they're going to list with is either referred by or is a friend, neighbor, or relative. So keep in mind, that's the number one way that people are choosing who they're going to list with. So part of my question for you today is, are you calling your sphere of influence? Are you staying on top of that and contacting your sphere of influence on a regular basis so that they're not forgetting that you are the agent? See, for me, since I started doing training, which has been probably 15-ish years ago now, but I started training, I kind of let my sphere of influence go, meaning I haven't been staying in touch with them. Now, over that 15 years, I've had people, because of what I had done, that would still call me and still want me to help them out along the way. But part of my frustration is because I have quit doing that, I have now noticed other people in my neighborhood that I live in. It was pretty common for the majority of the homes that were sold in that area to be done by me. And when I say majority, I guess probably 50% of the homes that would take place in there was usually me. And it was because I would stay in touch with all of the neighbors. We have a neighborhood newsletter that I would market to, so that I would put an ad in and send out to this neighborhood, updating them. Here's what's going on in our market, in our area. And as a result of that, people would call me. Well, over the last 15 years, because I haven't been doing that, I've started to notice other people getting listings within the neighborhood and less people calling me. Well, it's because I'm not staying in touch. So are you staying in touch with them? Now, on this chart from the National Association of Realtors, the second best way that a seller chooses, or the second most common way that a seller is choosing the agent they're going to list their home with, is a past client. So somebody that you have helped in the past. Now, the other interesting thing on that, though, if you look further into this survey that the NAR sends out on home buyers and sellers, the other thing that they talk about is that most of the time, your past clients would be willing to use you again. So make sure you hear what I'm saying. Most of the time, your past clients would be willing to use you again. But the interesting thing is, as you go through this report, very few times do they, like 25% of the time, so 1 out of 4 people that close on a property are going to use that agent again when it's time to sell. Well, why would that be? Why do you think that would take place? Well, obviously it's because we don't stay in touch with our past clients. And because they know that the turnover in real estate is so high, meaning 13 out of 14 agents who start in this business will not make it 2 years. Well, the general public knows that's what happens. They recognize that the turnover is high. They assume because you haven't called them that it's one of two things. And this is what I have learned is, one is they just assume that you're not interested in them. They assume you're not wanting to stay in touch with them. Or number two, and this goes for your whole SOI in general, is number two is they assume you don't need their business. See, they don't know how it works. They don't realize that you need them to refer people to you. See, they assume you show up to the office here and that when you get here, we're calling you and just giving you, hey, here's some people to go help sell their home. They don't realize that you're on your own and it's up to you to go get the database, to go get the people from a database. Now, as a result of that, as a result of them not recognizing it, they assume you have plenty of business because you're not calling and talking to them. So your past clients, if you're not staying in touch with them and keeping up with them, then you're going to miss out on opportunities. Now, here's the other side of it. When you do have a listing and you get a buyer that closes on it, after the closing, there is nothing wrong with, after a few months down the road, giving them a call and just saying, hey, I just wanted to touch base to make sure everything's working out for you in your new home. So to some extent, you can adopt the client, the buyer that bought your listing, if that makes sense. Okay, so you've got your past clients as a way for you to get listings, but also the buyers who bought your listing, if you would add them to your database and stay in touch with them, can be a potential. Because here's the thing, we know that most of the time the other agent is not staying in touch with them. Just stop and think about it for a minute. If you're not staying in touch, what do you think the chances that other agents aren't? They're not. So that's the other way. So the first way you can get listings and how they're going to choose you is they're from your database. You're staying in touch with them. You're keeping them updated on the market. You're letting them know what's going on. Second is past clients. So the past client is the next way that a seller is going to choose you, or the past client of a buyer's agent that bought your listing. Okay. Then the next way you can get listings. So hopefully I'm just giving you some ideas that you can use today to go out and pick up some more listings. Okay. So the next way is a referral from another agent. So when you find an agent, develop some relationships with some agents from other areas, because they're going to have people that end up in our area. So that's another way, is referrals from other agents is how. Now, here's why. Again, if you go back to that NAR survey, and I wish I would have thought to bring that. I didn't even think about it till I was in the middle of talking already. But if I go back to that survey and you think about it, it says the way they chose their agent, the number one way is either referred by or is a friend, neighbor, or relative. So have you got other agents that can refer people to you? Okay, that's the third way. Fourth way that you can get listings is you can outprice the competition. Unfortunately, that is a way that you can get listings. I talked to another agent this week who was going out on a listing, and he asked me, would you help me? Would you look at my CMA and see what you think? Now, to some extent, and you guys know this, but to some extent, like in today's market, I'm almost like, who cares like what the CMA says? Because it's going for above list price anyway. Now, obviously that's not true. That's not the case. And in fact, keep in mind, last week we had a lunch and learn here at the office that we had an appraiser. And somebody asked the question of the appraiser, how often are you coming in low on your appraisals? And I thought it was fascinating that she said about 50% of the time. 50% of the time, the properties are coming in under appraisal. Okay. But here's one of the ways you can go get listings is you can outprice the competition. So this agent says to me, hey, I went out, or I'm going out on this. Will you look at it with me? So I pull up some comparables. We look at them, and I said, okay, here's probably what's going to happen. Looking at the comps, it's probably going to sell for $350, or excuse me, you probably should list it. It's probably worth $350,000. But there was a couple that were under contract that were in that range that were a little bit higher. And I said, so probably it's going to sell for $375, $380. But I would go, if I were you, I told him I would go list it at $350 because it's probably going to go for a little bit higher than that. Well, he says, oh, the seller's not going to like that. He told me he wants to list it for $450. And I was like, oh, like in today's market, you can be aggressive, but there comes a point when you're too aggressive. And I said, you know, I wouldn't do it if I were you. Now, I guess you can go look and see what listings have come on the market in the last few days or in the next few days for that price range. You can figure out who I'm talking about, but it is still possible to overprice. So part of the way you could go get a listing today is you can go outprice the competition. Okay, next one is they will pick you because your commission's lower. And here's the thing, this one's kind of a hot one for me right now that I want to talk about for a minute with you guys, is you can get listings by underpricing, you know, cutting your commission below what everyone else is doing, and that will get you some listings. Now, here's the thing, here's the thought that I was having yesterday about this, is as I was thinking about this yesterday, 6% is 6%. Now, I know that's not very profound as I'm saying that, but here's the thing. For years and years and years, kind of, if you were to take all the transactions that have ever taken place and you averaged them out over the lifespan of real estate agents taking listings, you're going to probably be right around 6%. Well, 6% is 6%. And what I mean by saying 6% is 6% is 6% is the same on $100,000 as it is on $1 million or on $100 million. 6% is 6%. See, meaning if you were going to teach your child to donate to a charity and you said to them, I want you to, if you taught your kid, you should give 6% of your commissions or any income you ever get away to charities. You should teach your kids to do that when they're young. Because here's the thing, giving away 6 cents on a dollar is much easier than $60,000 on $1 million. See, ultimately, 6% is 6% though. See, it doesn't change. But here's my point of bringing all this up. Unfortunately, what happens to us is we look at the amount that the 6% equals, and because we don't think we're worth that amount of commission is why we then go in and do it less. And here's my point in that. If you had the opportunity to go list a property and you are only going to be paid 6% of $1,000 or $60, you're probably going to walk away from that transaction because you're going to look at it and say the dollars are not big enough. I'm not willing to go do it. But then the flip side takes place as well, where now you get the opportunity to go list a $10 million home and you look at that and you go, ooh, I'm not worth that amount of money. See, and what I would say to you, so part of this is you can get listings by lowering your commission, or the next way that you can get them is you can have a huge amount of value created in your presentation to where they're willing to do it. See, I love to use the example of we are not all driving around in Yugos, which some of you guys may be too young to know what a Yugo is. But basically, it was a lawnmower engine put inside of a car is what a Yugo was. See, we're not driving those around, yet they do the job. They will get you from point A to point B, but you're probably not going to enjoy the experience so much. See, why are people willing to go out and buy a Mercedes or go buy a Lamborghini? Why do people go buy expensive cars? Well, it's because they see the value in it. They see the value in driving a luxury car, and because of that, they will spend the money. If your clients see the value in you, if you can show them the value you bring to the table, they'll pay a higher commission. And it is not uncommon. In fact, I have done a lot of 8% commissions, and we've got an agent in the Centerville office who, back when prices of properties were going down dramatically, he did tons and tons of 8% listings. Now, Trent Hyde would offer 5% to whoever brought in the buyer and keep 3%. I always told him, and I don't know if Trent's on or not, but I always told him, you should keep 4 and give 4 away if you're going to do that. See, that's the thing, is look at it from that standpoint. Is what we are doing is we hurt ourselves by reducing our commissions. And the worst part is I had an agent tell me they were going to list a property at 7% and offer 2 to who brings in the buyer. And he said, well, it's going on everywhere. Well, yeah, it is. But guess what? It's also not going to come back if you don't stand up for it. We have to fight for who we are and what we are. See, you got ultimately, I guess, here's what I'm saying. Sorry, and I'll get off my soapbox on this one. But you are worth the commissions. You have to decide you are worth the commissions, and then you can go in and you can get it. Or you can outprice the competition by lowering and cutting your commission until they choose you. See, at one point, all right, I got to tell you one more story first. Sorry, then I'll get off my soapbox. At one point, I left and went to a 100% commission company. And the reason I did is because I was working for sale by owners and I kept getting outbid. And so I decided I'm going to go to a 100% shop where I can just price it for whatever I feel like I want to price it for, because I'm paying a monthly fee to the office that I was in. Well, here's the interesting thing. I went over there and what I found is people will still undercut you. And not only that, but I did less business. Being at a 100% commission place, I made less money than when I was on a split, giving away money to the company. And I shouldn't say that. Let me rephrase that. That was poor wording, because it wasn't giving it away. But what I learned by going to that 100% shop is I wasn't giving it away. There was value in that. See, so it's no different as us as an agent versus a seller. If you believe you're worth it, you're worth it. All right, next one. The next way is people will choose you just because of the company you're with. You're with Century 21. And guys, I'm happy to tell you or hate to tell you, I don't know what to say, but just so you know, highest brand recognition out there. When you ask people who Century 21 is, they know who Century 21 is. They don't always know who Exit is or Redfin. I mean, Redfin sounds like you're going to buy a fish. You're going to dinner and going to have fish if you're listing your home with Redfin. And I probably shouldn't be naming names here, but here's the point. I'm trying to prove a point here. People know who Century 21 is. Highest brand recognition. The only one higher is Coca-Cola. So luckily they don't sell real estate, right? But people know who Century 21 is. They're going to trust Century 21. They will be willing to use you because of the company you're with. Next, they'll choose you because of your personal production. Now, I don't think this should be the reason that people necessarily choose you, other than using it as a soundbite. Meaning, don't go in and have your personal production be your listing presentation, but sometimes they are going to choose you because they see your name around. I have had times where I've gone out on a listing and somebody has said, well, we called you because we've seen your sign in the neighborhood so much. So because of your production, they will choose you. All right. And then probably the most important, which I just was talking about it, the next one is they're going to choose you because you give a strong presentation that has a lot of value in that presentation. You go and you give a presentation that is strong, that creates a ton of value. See, this one's the most important on a listing. They should be choosing you because they see value in who you are. They're not choosing you because of a low commission. They're choosing you because I know you can get the job done. I know that you're going to be able to get me the highest price for my home. All right. Hopefully that's helpful for you guys, but go out and get some listings, man. Focus on spending some time every day getting listings, going door knocking. I loved hearing Katie talk about yesterday that an agent who had never door knocked went out and knocked on some doors, and as a result of knocking on the doors, ended up with 2 really good leads that are potential listings. If you want to get them, go and do some door knocking. Hopefully in California, you guys are going to be able to do that soon. I know I see Jesse Unsworth there all the time out doing door dropping. So he's doing the best that he can on that, trying to hit 1,000 doors a week. If you guys will go do that, you're going to see some success, and you're going to see it coming in the form of listings. So, hey, thanks for being with me this morning. Hopefully you guys got something great out of it. And let's wrap it up with our closing affirmations. Make it an awesome day today. And here we go.